welcome to Modern Home Masterminds with beSpoke Brokers. I'm Shauna Glazier, designated broker and owner.
And I'm Brittany Williamson, associate broker. Shauna and I are beSpoke real estate, but we're also your guides to modern luxury across the entire state of Arizona.
Each week we chat with masterminds shaping the modern spaces. Do you want to get a behind-the-scenes look at your design build team's processes? Well, open communication and teamwork will lead you to a successful project.
From architects to builders, designers, and more, let's explore the art of modern living together.
All right. Well, welcome back. Have you heard the phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure? Today's guest, Laura Madden, is taking that phrase to new heights and creating fine art out of the most unusual materials.
That's right. Based right here in Phoenix, Arizona, Laura is a modern contemporary artist and champion of sustainability. She regularly transforms reclaimed materials into bold contemporary masterpieces that elevate modern home design and leave you marveling at her ability to turn the discarded into the extraordinary.
I love it.
Well,
Great.
Welcome, Laura. All right, let's talk about these materials you're using to create your gorgeous fine art. Adaptive reuse and sustainability seem to be common themes in your life and your work. Can you tell us what sustainability means to you and how you've incorporated it in your life and your work?
You know, for sustainability, so much of my life does revolve around what I consider sustainability, but I think it's probably a little bit more unconventional compared to how most people look at sustainability. For me, sustainability is really utilizing everything we have maximally. So how can we use something and maximize those resources? So it's really, consuming and using and discarding in a very thoughtful and conscious way. And for me, that is just, it feels more like common sense. And, I don't drive an electric car. I'm not a vegan. I'm not really a climate guru. So there's a lot of things that people would associate with somebody who lives sustainably and revolves their life around sustainability, that, I don't really fit into that whole picture, I guess you could say, but it really is about, for me, circularity. And my whole business model essentially, or my body of work is based on, how can I strengthen the circular economy? Because these are all items that are already in circulation. They were already made. The resources were already used, but how can we maximize? How can we extend their life? How can we reinvent them?
I love that.
Essentially.
So explain some of the things that you've been using in your art.
So I use a whole range of, I guess you could say, collected and curated items, also salvaged items, canvases, paints. Right now I'm using a lot of fabrics, a lot of textiles, and that is just a really fun area for me because I feel like when you're talking about waste, when you're working with waste, the possibilities are endless because there's so much. So it's not like I'm necessarily collecting someone's clothing, but it's a lot of fabric scraps, remnant pieces from designers, from interior designers, upholsters. It's like, what do you do with these leftover pieces that are not enough to be made into a garment or, a pillow or a drape. So it's almost like a big puzzle piece for me, like putting together these puzzle pieces of how can I use these remnant pieces and create something that is a one-of-a-kind masterpiece that is going to bring huge value to someone else's life.
I saw that you did a whole series with chef's jackets.
Yes, that was one of the most fun collaborations that I've done so far. And also I was so honored that he decided to give me his old chef coats instead of just throwing them away.
So tell our listeners who it was.
Chef Christopher Gross, who I totally love and adore his work. He's so talented. It's one of my favorite restaurants here, if not, my husband and I's favorite restaurant. So
Christopher's?
Christopher's. Yeah. Yes. At the Wrigley Mansion.
Yes. Which was designed by Wendell Burnett.
It was.
And built by the construction zone.
Yes. And the building is really magnificent. But I was so thrilled because, this was just a whole, it was just a much deeper story than any of the other fabrics that I had worked with until that time. This is his history. It's his life. These were coats that he wore at fundraising events all over the world throughout his career. And it was like, okay, what else can we do with these? And so I made some really cool pieces. A number of them live now live at his home. I do have a small collection of them available for purchase. I do have some of them that are my own forever. But the funny thing is, when you're deconstructing a chef coat, it is super labor intensive. Those seams, they're so well made. So that was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And we did a really cool piece, actually. He does this event every year, a fundraising event, huge event for the American Liver Foundation. And we auctioned a piece off last May, so it's coming up again soon. But I deconstructed a chef coat and made a custom piece to be auctioned off at this event. And it was a really very cool piece. But that was an entire coat, give or take, some scraps.
So what are the materials you're using to like put it on the canvas or whatever you're doing with it?
A lot of the times the paint is what I use, and it's all I use. Occasionally I'll use a spray adhesive. For the most part, that's the most common thing I would use. But most of the time it is just the paint, because when that paint dries, it is like cement. And so those fabrics are stuck. So I love collecting leftover latex paint. Everyone has leftover paint from, building projects, renovations, builders, designers. And, what got me started doing that, I would never have done that. But when we moved here into our home, the previous owner left so much stuff he should not have left. And I remember feeling so restless. I wanted to get painting and creating art for my own home. And so there was all this paint there, and I just thought, screw it. This paint is here. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to use this paint. And I really fell in love with the paint, because some of it, when it starts to dry out, you cannot put that stuff on your walls. It is useless for, a wall, but on a canvas, it creates the most amazing texture. And you can really, really develop that texture with this paint that has started to go bad. But it also works amazingly as an adhesive, with these fabrics. So it's mostly these things that otherwise there's no use for this stuff.
And and we'll look at some photos in a little bit, but some of your latest pieces are working with leather.
Yes.
You said it's very heavy. You're saying how heavy it is.
Yeah, it's really, it's a whole different thing, because it's, cotton is, cotton. And it's kind of like a beast, but it's very, very, I love it to create very unusual sculptural textures, and
it's like ribbons.
Yeah, layers. Yeah. It's deeply textural and hyperdimensional is how I would describe it.
We have a couple photos. But are you spraying something on top of that?
So that one I did spray a gloss, and then this the black rose underneath, which is that's a work in progress, not totally done. That one I did spray with black spray paint. The leather was black, but I did spray it with black spray paint again, and it was a glossy paint. So
and all the leather are more sculpture. They're not on a canvas.
Yes.
They're freestanding.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Those are on wood, and those are meant to hang on a wall. They're wired to hang exactly as shown to hang on a wall. So yes. So it's all sculptural wall art is how I would describe it anyway. Maybe there's another term for it, but I would consider it sculptural wall art, because it is wired to hang. Everything is ready to go, ready to hang, and really elevate your life.
Love it.
Yeah. Have you always been into art?
I have, but it was a secret. It wasn't something I wanted anyone to know about me. And really, I would just make art for myself, for our own homes. Every time we moved, which has been many times for my husband's job, I would just make new art for this new style of home, and then I would stop. And that was just kind of it. So it was almost more not for the passion of it. It was more a necessity for me, because I knew how I wanted my home to feel. And so I would just do it. And but it really felt like I felt self-conscious about it. Like I would never tell people, I would never talk about it. I never had any interest in pursuing that professionally or developing it. I never took an art class. And I think I just didn't accept myself as an artist. I didn't value that passion, but obviously I did love it, because my work has always been pretty labor intensive. So I wouldn't have done it if I didn't really love doing it, but it was just more of a means to an end until we moved here. Until we moved here, then things just really shifted for me.
What was that shift like?
It's so hard to describe. Yeah. It was kind of like almost more of a snap decision. Okay. I really, and I think something like when you get into your 40s, like life events happen, you start to realize that time is not coming back.
Right.
And it's funny because when I moved here, I made so much art, like right when we moved here. And I slowly, it became like this realization. I just couldn't outrun it anymore. All I wanted to do was make art. I just wanted to create. I wanted to explore. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to try new things. And I think part of it was coming upon this home with all these leftover, cans of paint. And then there was also lots of wood that I started working with. And so it was just like, there's nothing else I want to do with my life right now. And so, tomorrow's not promised. So I'm going to just do it. But it was kind of a scary thing that I had to just like jump in and not think about it because it was scary. Like, what are people going to think of me? Like this person, she's changing careers again. Who does she think she is? And these are like all these little voices you have in your head. And, I've always had this thing. I never wanted people to think I was weird. And I always thought artists were weird. But at the same time, it's like, look at me. We're all weird. I know. I am weird. I'm wearing this gold.
It's beautiful.
This gold,
wrapping paper. This is a good segue into the twins. If we have a picture of these twins, which goes into faces. So I had some wall space and I came over to your studio and I wanted to purchase something, right?
I love this so much.
I purchased these. Once you told me their name were the twins, I was like, I have to have them. And they're beautiful, but then we started talking about faces, and a lot of your early work, there were faces. You did a lot of them, and now you're down to, I think, only one left.
One is left. It's framed. Yes, one is left.
But I wonder if what you had told me about your identity back then and why you thought you're doing faces ties into what you were just saying about not wanting to be judged or people to think you're.
Yeah. It's interesting. People always ask, like, what's the inspiration behind your work? And if I think long and hard enough about it, or if I just let that question sit here for long enough, I start to recognize these themes. And it was interesting because early on, all I wanted to do was faces. It's all I wanted to do. And it just made me so happy because each face is very minimal. It's very minimal. The markings are minimal, but there's like this mystery and you can identify an expression in each one of those faces. There's like life there. And I do think this was at a time, early on in starting this business, pursuing my art professionally, I was really, it was like accepting myself as an artist. And like, this is like a whole new identity. But it was still like that fear of what are people going to think about me? What are people going to say about me? And so it was really like stepping into this new identity and just accepting myself because that identity has been that has been in me forever. As a little kid, I was always sketching. I was always creating things with my hands. And somewhere along the line, I learned to just bury that and, hide it. But yeah, so I think I truly think it was representative of a time that period in my life where it was really about like stepping into this new identity and just trying to be courageous enough about just stepping in, you know.
And now your art's evolved from that.
Yeah, it has. And I think I spend so much time creating. And again, it's like always experimenting and exploring with different media types. And now doing so much more work with the fabrics. It's such a whole new world. And truly, when you're working with waste, the possibilities are endless because there's just so many directions you can take everything. And the thing that's so interesting about art for me is there's no wasting anything. Even if I make a mark or, twist something a way that I think really sucks, then there's always a way of rectifying that.
And there's no risk. If it's already trash.
Exactly.
There's no risk
I think that's
of hurting anything, right?
I think that's it. It's better in my studio than in a landfill. So, yeah. But I just love working with the textiles because this is it's just so experiential.
Yeah.
It really is. Because
let's look at some more photos.
Yeah, if you have something on a wall, you walk past it one direction, you walk past the other direction, it is a whole different piece of art, different light. It's a whole different piece of art. And it's funny, I ask people, their perceptions of certain pieces, and everyone has their own experience of certain pieces. But with the fabric, so much of this, I think, stemmed from my background in the fashion industry where I was working before this. And, there's so much waste in the fashion industry. And that's what really enlightened me to fabric that's unnecessarily being trashed. But this is, the fabric stuff, it's really about, it's like these themes of second chances, new beginnings, the power of transformation. And that's really what I want people to experience with this. And, having these things, if you love it, it can be transformative for you as well, to have that in your home, because it makes us feel good. It really doesn't. And I look back through my life and there's things that I made that now I'm like, oh my God, that really sucked. But for me, it felt really badass. It felt like, wow, I feel empowered. Like I feel like more confident because it just instilled that in me. So this is one of the chef code this is one of the first chef code pieces that I made. And this one actually is still available. This is called Chef's Kiss. I mean, who doesn't want Chef's Kiss?
Right?
But, that was just...
Is that Alfonso in there?
Yeah, that was an ASID event.
He's awesome.
We spoke at, which was all about the human hand, the power of the human hand. We were having this conversation about could AI ever take over, the artist's hand. And it's like, no, of course they can't. Of course. There's just no way.
AI can't. I think you're...
It has no soul.
Yes,
and
right.
I feel like that's what people are attracted to.
It would be, if AI made this, it would be so too perfect.
Yeah.
I think it would have no soul.
Yes.
It would be like, oh, this looks like, I got it at a, box Target or whatever.
Where's that large piece that you have one? What is the size
Love
of it?
Installation. So this piece is 25.5 feet wide and 9.5 feet tall. This is...
Do you have it, Marty?
Yeah.
It's...
The large piece, there was a photo.
Yeah, it's not far off. There we go. And so that's not showing the entire thing. There is a little bit more on the ends, but this consists of 244 8x10 canvases, and they're interchangeable. So each of these pieces could be displayed in a completely different way. And it's hard to see from this, but it does read love. So the black back
I see
pieces.
it.
Yeah.
I see
You
love.
can see it.
And also for our listeners that aren't watching, that you can just go to her Instagram or
it's-
website and you'll see
yeah.
this, but it's a fantastic piece.
It's on my website. But yeah, this is a really this is a very experiential piece, and it's definitely transformative, and this is looking for a home. But the fun thing is, but also the challenge is that it's 244 separate pieces, but they could be arranged any which way. So it could be a lot taller than this, could be not as wide, if you wanted to fill a certain space, but it's a lot of pieces. So regardless, it is, it needs a home with a lot of space.
With a lot of space. You need a big wall to put it on.
Large wall.
So how do you typically sell your art? Do you create and then sell it, or are you commissioned for pieces? How does it work?
It's a little of both. I do have a collection of work that I'm always creating for myself. And so that is most of what you'll see on my website. I do a lot of commissions as well. Last year, I did more commissions than anything. It was really an interesting year. So I am open for commissions, and I love doing commissions. It's a great challenge, to fulfill someone else's vision instead of my own. But I am open for commissions, and but I also sell on my own. And I work with 2 galleries, but I am mainly self-represented. So I sell on my own, and I sell out of my home. Most of my work is at my home, where my studio is also located.
So how would it work if somebody were to commission a piece from you? What does that typically look like?
Well, we'll either have a phone call or a Zoom, or we'll meet in person. A lot of times we end up meeting in person. A lot of times we end up meeting in person at my home, where most of the work is displayed, and people will point out things that they somewhat want me to model a piece after. So it's usually like I want this, but I need it in this size. That's usually how it goes. And then it's just getting crystal clear on exactly what they want. And then I get to work.
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
And when you're not commissioned to do a piece and you want to create art, what does that look like? Do you do that in the morning? Do you do that at night? Are you drinking coffee? Or are you drinking wine?
I'm drinking
what's
nothing.
Your creative
I'm
process?
drinking nothing. It's usually early because I'm up super early, in the middle of the night, I'm awake. It's kind of like a mad scientist moment. Mm-hmm. And unlike probably most artists, I don't often schedule studio time. And, since my studio is at my home, I'm very lucky. I just have to walk I don't know.
I was there, yeah.
20 feet
Cute
or
little
something
studio
outside of my garage, and then it's right there. But, I have these mad scientist moments where I'll think of something and I'm out there and I'm doing it because, you'll get these bursts of inspiration, these ideas. And for me, it's like I need to act on it right away or at least make a sketch. Mm-hmm. But it really is, I'm working on things in little bits all the time. But I love experimenting because with the leather, for instance, that was a totally different textile for me to ever work with. And so it's just, playing with it. How does it react to, being put on a piece of wood or being put on a canvas or, some other media type? But I do consider it mad scientist moments. But I don't ever drink anything because it's so physical and so labor intensive. I would kill myself. And I know a lot of artists who swear by their wine, having a few glasses of wine when they paint. I could never. I'm so accident prone anyway. I mean, I need to be fully focused and, just in the zone.
This random question, because I'm just thinking, if it was me, I would never know when art is done.
It's tricky.
When is it done?
It's tricky. It's tricky. And I'll admit, people ask me this all the time. So people really want to know.
Yeah.
For me, it's almost like a physical sensation. If something is not done, I am restless. My hands are restless. And I cannot get my hands to stop fooling with something or, messing with something. When something is done for me, I can rest.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can put my hands down. I can sit. But if something's not done, I'm restless.
Keep
Fidgety.
working on it.
Yeah. Yes, I just have to keep going at it.
So how did you come across the leather? Where did it come from?
Interesting story. A designer I had done a bunch of commissions for, she called me one day and she said, my upholsterer is closing shop and he has bolts and bolts of fabric that he is just throwing in the dumpster if someone doesn't come pick him up because he has nothing to do. That's just what you do and you don't need something. And so I feel so guilty about this. I sent my husband down to pick up as much as he could fit in his car. And there was tons of these bolts of leather. And I actually, when I first saw that, I thought, I didn't know he picked up the leather and he didn't know he was picking up leather. But I thought, what the hell? What am I going to do with this? Yeah. And I started ripping it up and I did start, sculpting it onto mostly wood right now so far. But it was from an upholsterer who was just going to trash it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to at least save something. It's this, I feel like I'm saving this little orphan or this, stray dog. I just get this weird, I'm so materialistic, really. It's sick. But I just get this weird attachment to material things where it's I have to give it another chance. Yeah. It's we're going to alchemize this into something. I don't know. But it's I was sharing this, I think, with you. It's there's all these items that people have, discarded as disposable or, just trash or no longer valuable. And I just have this weird determination to bring value back to this poor little orphan, leather bolt and make it into something that, is great value for someone. It really is the kind of my underlying mission with rescuing these textiles.
Well, what you're making is beautiful.
You are.
Thank you.
Yeah. And with that, we'd want to ask you a couple rapid fire questions. You up for that?
Yeah, these are always scary though, so I don't know what you're throwing.
They're supposed to be easy.
It wasn't on the email. So
no, on purpose. On purpose.
Actually, Sean already asked one of them, so we'll skip one.
What's it?
Which one did I ask?
The drink. coffee, tea, or something else while you work?
Oh, I did. I didn't read the rapid fire questions. Okay.
Always coffee before.
Always coffee
It was
before.
coffee before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coffee before anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we'll let you go.
Yeah. No, you start. That's
What's
we
your
can leave that one up.
biggest artistic inspiration?
It's got to be like the essence of luxury, like just the feel of luxury, the allure of luxury, and just, feeling that ease in your life and, just
Love it.
living a good life.
I think you can see that come through in your work too, which is very cool considering you're using things that people are throwing away.
And also the houses that her art is displayed,
Yes.
like your clientele that's purchasing your art,
And that's
is in the
also a
luxury market.
huge inspiration. These beautiful homes, like always makes me think,
Yeah.
I want to make something for that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a go-to music playlist while you're creating?
Oh, well, I do actually. I do. I really love, it's like my chill. I call it my chill for the most part. It's the chill playlist. And it's a lot of kind of like vibe. What do you call it? Vibe beats.
Like electronic dance music kind of?
Hotel de Coste is one of the like Spotify lists. I pulled a lot of things from that. Vibey. Or Led Zeppelin. That's like, if I need to like get going.
Yeah.
That like lights a fire.
Motivated one. What's one tool in your studio you can't live without?
Oh, that would definitely be wood pieces.
Yeah.
I have all kinds of like wood. I don't even know what you call it. Like shards of wood. They have sharp edges. It's just remnants from my carpenter from a renovation left. And I like just make markings with them. I create the fabric points out of them. Yeah, wood.
Very cool.
Wood.
What's the most unexpected material you've ever used in a piece?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Told you everything. I mean, probably the leather.
Probably the leather right now because
Probably
it's so
the
new.
leather.
A chef coat, probably.
The chef coat is so unusual. I did work with a menswear designer who I really love, and he gave me some remnant pieces from these really beautiful, opulent men's suits that he creates. And people are usually pretty surprised about that because it's really beautiful fabrics. But I mean, it's all kinds. It's drapes. It's all kinds of. Actually, I'll tell you one thing that I'm very proud of saving. I had this beautiful duvet cover, and my dog, she likes to dig on the bed, and she ripped a hole right in that thing, and I was so upset because I thought, I love that piece. I love that piece, and I decided I'm going to use this fabric, and I actually used it for a commission. I had bought all this fabric that I was going to use for this commission, and I decided I'm going to use that duvet. And it was the most perfect thing.
Like my duvet is now hanging in my client's house.
Hanging in her house. And like, just because the dog, it was an unfortunate situation that made me so upset. But from that anger somehow stemmed, I was so happy I was able to make something of that. Because I thought,
that's perfect. That's exactly,
ruined.
I think, the answer we were looking for.
Exactly. That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. We are going to link all your contact information in the show notes, but if you want to tell our listeners the best place to find you.
It's probably Instagram right now at Laura Madden Studio. My website, which I shared, and is changing.
Yes.
New website,
Yes.
brand new website, but Instagram at Laura Madden Studio is the best place.
Great. We will put whatever website you're using when the show launches, we'll put that on there for you.
Cool.
Nice. All right. Well, that's it for today's episode of Modern Home Mastermind. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, rate, and subscribe.
Yes, and thanks to our guest for sharing her insights and to you for learning about everything modern with us.
And if you're ready to take the next step in your real estate journey, please reach out to us at beSpoke Real Estate. And in the meantime, keep living, loving everything modern.